Hello and welcome, my name is Steven Hollander, and in this series of videos I will talk about a popular subject, how to scale a chart. First, I will look at the early history of trading, then we'll need to see what scale actually is, and finally we will put it together on paper and on screen. Very shortly, this is how they traded back in those days. Stock prices were telegraphed to a ticker machine and they were written onto a board at a brokerage. If a trader was rich, he would rent an office and have his own ticker tapes. Charting stock prices was a later invention, for a very simple reason. They had to be drawn by hand using a graph paper. Charts were a very complicated or expensive way to trade. But don't take my word, there is a famous book from those days, The Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. It gives us a very detailed description about the whole atmosphere of trading back then. I don't want you to get me wrong, this book has very little practical use, it's literature, it was written for entertainment, not as a trading handbook. But it gives us an overview why people prefer looking at the numbers as they came out of the ticker. Trading charts were considered impractical for the very reason that they were too time-consuming to create as compared to watching the numbers and acting on them. So let's not go further than this statement. A chart helps those who can read it, or rather, who can assimilate what they read. Let's face it, the world is globalized. Most of us speak some kind of international English as a second or third language these days. Some of us only use it to communicate on the internet. But what does this have to do with our topic? If you are like me, when it comes to any special subject, I am always ready to overanalyze it. And I notice that most of us who study Gann do the same. People approach Gann like a puzzle, and they have to solve it. The situation is the same when it comes to scaling. Scale is one of those buzzwords around Gann. Have you ever noticed how many different things it means in English? For our purposes, this definition is the best. We don't need to go further. A system of ordered marks at fixed intervals used as a reference standard in measurement. It sounds very complicated because linguists and other scientists like to overcomplicate things. So let's break it down. It really goes on about the same thing. Measurement, which for our purposes are the numbers. What are numbers? Ordered marks, and they are in order with fixed intervals between each. And most importantly, we use numbers as a reference. Nothing complicated. So, for instance, on a time and price chart we define a price scale from 1 to 10. So far we have agreed what a scale is, and now we can get to the point. To understand how to make a chart on paper, first we will need a piece of paper like this. Let's just say we want to look at last month's closing prices day by day and make a chart, which means we have one number for every single trading day. So we define a scale to start somewhere. We define a scale from 1 to 10. Then we start putting the prices onto the paper. From 2 to 6, 4, 8, 6, 8, back to 2, up to 4, and as we start getting bored, we notice something. We made a mistake. We should have looked at the whole set of prices. They go up all the way to 20. But our scale only goes from 1 to 10. What is a normal reaction? Here's our chart and I will just stick another paper on top of it. Going like this, you will soon need a bigger desk. Or a brand new wallpaper. It's obvious that we cannot keep on going like this. So we have to ask a question now. What did Gann do? It's just as easy, but we need to do the work from the beginning again. Get another piece of paper, redefine a scale going up to 20 and redo the chart once again from 2 to 6, 4, 8, 6, 8, 2, 4 and so on. This way you are safe until the price goes above 20 and you'll have to do it all over again. On to the next part. I think you could easily follow the line of thought so far. Here I want to focus on something that seems to be the core of the problem and seems to confuse most people. This is where we are now. We have the exact same chart on two different scales. What did Gann do? He had other calculations on his charts. I don't say drawings for a reason, because everything he did was based on numbers and calculations. This means that when he changed the scale of a chart, he couldn't just do this. He couldn't just copy all the so-called drawings because the calculations would have been completely wrong, incorrect. This is the correct scale. Let's carry on from this statement. Anything we put on a chart must be referenced by numbers. When you make a chart by hand, you will know the price went from 2 to 6, 4, 8 and so on. However, when you see the same thing on screen, there will be a great disadvantage. You don't need to focus on the numbers anymore. To make it more convenient, the change in scale has become automatic. This is how it works on a screen. No need to redraw anything because the work surface is now endless. Let me again remind you of this quote. A chart helps those who can assimilate what they read. Working on a computer instead of paper doesn't mean that we don't have challenges, we just face different ones. What did Gann do on paper? He tried to use a fixed scale to save efforts and time. He also used so-called overlays, which were independent layers, to move his analysis from one chart to another chart. To do this, both of the charts and the overlay had to be the same scale as I have shown you. This is the reason he placed so much emphasis on the scale. So what would Gann do on screen? It is almost the opposite. The analysis cannot move independently when we scroll through a chart on screen. Before you go, I need to ask you a favor. I am very happy that most of you find my content useful, as I have never advertised this channel. Now, I'm thinking how to give something extra. So I decided to put these lessons on Skillshare. If you want to show your support, I encourage you to sign up using my link in the description. But they normally let people sign up for a free month anyway. It's also not for their revenue model, which is based on the length of videos, because I still want to keep my videos short to save us time, our most precious resource. It's more like an experiment. If I see you are interested, I will plan to put more content on there as well. Thank you.